Hi, we've been thinking about anger and how we can understand what happens for us at the top of the volcano, which isn't always as obvious as anger. And one of the ways that has really helped me to understand it is the drama triangle. And in the drama triangle, there's a victim, there's a rescuer, and there's a persecutor. And we fit very well into the victim and rescuer. Even though we all do all of them, there's one that is our predominant way of expressing anger.
And which one might you be?
Oh, guess. Yeah, no. I've always had that victim mindset, and sadly, it kind of in my adulthood, it kind of made us into a codependent type of thing where I was the victim and you had to come in and rescue me.
And you're saying I'm a rescuer?
Oh, absolutely.
I think you might be right.
But we resented that role in the other, and it didn't change anything. It just kept us locked in this cycle of anger at the top of the volcano. And I guess mine came from a legitimate source. I mean, I was a victim as a little girl. I was a victim of an abusive home. But what happened is I adopted that victimhood as a survival strategy, and it became part of my core identity. So when any problem came along, I just catastrophize it, and it was almost like everybody's out to get me, the world's out to get me.
Well, help me to understand that it came from a legitimate source.
I was a victim.
Yeah, so when did it become, in a sense, illegitimate? When explain the difference.
Well, my chosen strategy of dealing with it was to, as I said, become that victim at the core of my identity. I see myself as a
dealing
victim.
with the abuse.
Yes.
Okay.
And in that, there's a powerlessness and a helplessness. I was powerless and helpless as a little girl, as a victim of my parents. But I took that victimhood with me into all of my relationships and into my adulthood. And it's almost like we call it an external locus of control. I've allowed everybody else to control how I view the world and how I respond to problems.
So, the external circumstances were the things that shaped how you reacted or responded to situations. How did that work out in our relationship?
Well, any criticism was an attack, or anything you would try and say about me was an attack, and I would react to that as a lack of love, and you are creating pain in me.
So the criticism connected to the abuse, in a sense.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
I became a victim again.
Okay.
Excuse me, because that's my mentality. That's my handling of the world.
And so your response was?
To shut everything off, to go away, to hide from everybody, to hide from my life, to nurse my wounds. And it's a poor me.
So was there soothing in that when you went away?
Not really. No.
Because I've just been thinking about being a rescuer and where that comes from, and I think back to early days and right as far back as I can remember, it's almost as if I'm setting up this idea of helping others, because when I help others, I feel good, and whoever I'm helping likes me, and it just becomes almost like a suit of clothes that I put on, and I begin to negotiate my world, looking for people that I can rescue or help. And
I'm one of them.
Along. Yeah, you came along.
So how did you try and rescue me? I always think of the knight in shining armour. And I wanted a knight in shining armour to come into my life and take away all that pain.
Well, my rescue attempts were always rational and solution oriented. And so what I thought I could do was fix the problems and fix you, which is where, I think some criticism given in love can be legitimate, but the criticism I gave came from, well, there's something wrong with you, you need fixing. And so I can understand why it would drive you back.
And that just reinforced my victimhood. And then when I wasn't fixed, that reinforced your rescuer tendency.
Yeah.
So here we go round this cycle. But we're both left with this seething anger that we cannot acknowledge or deal with.
Oh yeah, my anger is, it wasn't, my family of origin, anger was not a thing that was to be displayed or shown, although it was there. And so my anger at the fact that if you only did what I suggested that you should do and be who I suggested you should be, everything would be all right. And that was a horrible scenario to place on you. In other words, if you changed, everything would be all right.
Yeah, but mine was the same in a sense. If you changed and stopped hurting me and stopped causing me pain, I'd be okay too.
Yeah, I can remember specific incidences in life when my rescuing had been rejected. And, the one that really gets to me is I help. And then when I need some help back, just a little bit of help, it's not given or not even acknowledged that it was necessary.
And what happens then?
Oh my word, the resentment and the shutdown, the cut off, it's like a surgical excising. Boom.
I have felt that over the
I'm
years.
sure you have.
Yes.
No more rescuing for you. You're done.
And then that just reinforced my shame about my unworthiness, and I'm a victim and I'm helpless to change things.
But it was like I rescue. Now I need something. It's an exploration of my own need because I was not in touch with that. It was I couldn't tell you that I was the rescuer. I didn't need. Other people's needs were more important than mine. But when I did reach out and it gets sort of smashed or rejected, the internal ramifications of that are very powerful for me. I don't know what to do with them. It unsettles me. And so anger pushes it away and shuts it down. And so I recognise that I don't self-soothe very well at all. I don't go there. By rescuing, I can keep it away from me. I don't have to face my own unresolved inner pain.
Wow.
Yeah,
Very powerful.
I recognise that when the baby cries, she's not just crying for her, there's somehow a connection for crying for me.
She expresses your uncried longings in a sense.
And
for somebody to come.
I panic because there's something in me just hungers for that soothe me. I've never been able to do it in a sense. I've automatically moved to action, do something, help, be responsible.
And
that sort of stuff.
It's trying to soothe yourself by doing that, but it hasn't worked.
And that's why I asked you about when you went away and in your own quiet place, did you soothe? It doesn't work for me, even though I keep doing it.
Well, there must have been payoffs for both of us because we wouldn't hang on to those behaviours or those roles unless there was a payoff.
I believe the payoff for me was I didn't have to face some things. So if I kept rescuing, if I kept helping, then I didn't have to deal with my own unresolved stuff or some of those painful messages. Well, what you're doing is not good enough. Whoa, that one really stings.
I know if I ever just even touch on that, there's an explosion.
internal one.
Yeah, but I know.
Yeah, no,
I guess one of the payoffs for me is that no, it didn't soothe me, but I only felt sadness, so I couldn't recognise my anger. And similar to you, I shut out my personal responsibility for the role that I had adopted. It was everybody else's problem that they hurt me. They caused my unhappiness and my misery. And I put that on you and the kids. And then I just kind of go away and lick my wounds. It's really horrible. But it stopped me from taking personal responsibility because I felt helpless. I didn't feel like I could make a difference.
We're thinking back to those days. One of the things I noticed is you would get sick a lot.
Yeah.
How did that play into it?
Well, I could be a victim, couldn't I?
A legitimate victim?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I could get
It gave legitimacy.
cared for, if you like.
Yeah. Okay.
And I could be special. Like I longed to be special. Because I was never special to anybody. So it gave me a sense of specialness. But when we're locked in those roles, I didn't feel that. I didn't feel that you loved me for me, and you didn't feel that I loved you for you.
True.
Because we're locked into these roles that kept us very attached in the wrong way. It's like our attachment to our roles instead of attachment to each other.
The roles were more important than who we were. But you know, I still struggle to let go of that role. It's just I've been practicing it for so many years. It's my go-to, my default, and that sense of responsibility, which is a lovely gift that I can bring to people. But when it comes from that place in me that is unsoothed, that is in a sense untransformed, not processed, then it has.
But I've seen some massive changes in that.
Yeah, perhaps it's my perfectionism coming out. Yeah,
But I've seen you gradually begin to relinquish control and give it over to our Heavenly Father. I have seen that in you, and it's made you a lot nicer and more loving person. And rather than trying to fix everybody, well, I'll speak for myself, rather than trying to fix me, you will respond more with curiosity now, rather than over responsibility and trying to fix.
It's lovely of you to say that, but as I reflect, it's a very strong grip on me. It's a go-to movement, and I think that's probably something that I will be working on till the day I get promoted.
That's very primal, isn't it?
Oh, I think it's laid down in painful places, and when it works well, it becomes even more deeply inculcated in us. And so, but when unpacked, I mean, the reality was, if we kept doing what we were doing, we'd get the same result as we were getting, which was disastrous. So there was a need to say, well, hold on, this is not working.
But I do notice that you're much more aware of what you need now, and you can verbalise it more. And similar, it forced us to get out of the top of the volcano and look at what was underneath. And for me, it was powerlessness and helplessness and unworthiness. And they were the lies of the enemy that I had bought.
How do you see that ability to express needs in me? When do you see me expressing my needs?
You'll go away and think about it and come back and tell me. I'm trying to think of an example, but I can't think of one off the top of my head. But I know just generally you're much more aware of what you need, and you instead of giving in to what I want, you will actually express what you want. No, I don't feel like doing that at the moment, or I don't feel like going there. is that okay? And sometimes you do that in an angry way, but a lot of the times you do it in a, no, I'm really just going to express what I need here.
That's a good observation. That is me trying to express my needs, but because I haven't done it that much in life, I'm very awkward at it, and sometimes it comes out forcefully, whereas the place it's coming from is a place of discovery. In a sense, it's almost like a surprise. No, I don't want to do that, and it comes out as there's no negotiation. And so you'll have to sort of bear with me while I'm asking you to bear with me as I practice that.
For me, it was like a bolt of lightning after a horrible incident with my son, with our son, and I looked. I was almost like able to step outside of myself and look at the way that I handled that, and I went straight into victim mode. And for the first time, I recognised it and what the payoffs were, but also what was required of me. And what was required of me was to step up and speak truth into that incident in a way that could be received, in a way that was loving. I actually took responsibility for my actions, probably for one of the first times. And it was very clear to me how I'd hurt people with my shutdown and my, poor me licking my wounds and shutting everybody else out. So there was no prospect of reconciliation or dealing with the issue.
So you stepped up for him in that situation. What does that look like with me?
Well, similar in a way, because I used to see how you would respond to me in the rescuing role as hurting me. And I'd get angry at that, but I couldn't acknowledge the anger. Now I can acknowledge the anger and actually express it in a way that builds our relationship instead of tears it down. And so I take responsibility for my part in what's happened. And I am able to say, and this is what I need.
Yeah, the thing that I've noticed in more recent time is less defensiveness, a willingness to take it on, even though my expression of it may be awkward. There's the ability to sort of separate the delivery from the message. And I want to tell you, I find that, what's the word I'm looking for? So engaging and so delightful to participate. When you receive something in that, my heart just fair bursts with love and pride, and it's this sounds not nice, but it's not something that's happened a lot, as I'm sure the reverse has been true for you.
The hardest part, I think, for you, and you can tell me if this is true, is I express my anger in negativity and pessimism and cynicism, and I felt horrible because I was so negative about everything. Talk about a glass half full. It was pretty much empty. And you were the recipient of that negativity.
And negativity on negativity, it just goes down a little spiral, and we get to the bottom, we've got nowhere to go. We've both been to that place. I feel devastated, you feel horrible and needing to
And we're both good at catastrophizing everything.
So we go to our own corners and cannot connect in it. So in a sense, my enabling or rescuing destroys the connection, the possibility of connection.
And I've had to really go to God and repent of that. There's been a huge shift in me as I've seen how damaging my behaviour is to you and the kids and other people in my life over the years. And there's real regret about that role that I adopted to survive life that is so hurtful to me and others.
I mean, a couple of weeks ago I went to see a counsellor and I wanted to explore why I was overly responsible. But I think I could have named it, why am I a rescuer? And
what did you find out?
It was interesting because I'd been thinking about it for a long time, and yeah, I was asking God to reveal to me what it was about. Couldn't connect the dots. And as we were talking, the counsellor just used the word surrender, and it was like clunk. That's it. That's it. And you know, the rescuer is a controller. I must control my circumstances or I may feel pain. And so therefore must make that person a better person, or I'm going to bear the consequences of their decisions. And it's an impossibility, but I kept doing it. And so I recognised then that there are places when it's not for me to be responsible for. It's not for me to rescue. It's for me to let go, to surrender.
This is very powerful for both of us, isn't it? Very, very powerful turning around for both of us. Of just being able to even recognise it, but actually deal with what is underneath that destructive cycle at the top of the volcano. And I'm liking what's happening.
So am I.
Can we leave it there?
We can.